Chapter 2792. Puchi. The sound of a sharp blade piercing flesh was heard. In an instant, Qin Xiong's voice was stuck in his throat. Sui Yu and the others were also stunned. Young master. They looked at Ji Feiyu, whose arm was stained with blood, and hurriedly rushed over to snatch the knife in his hand, but he raised his hand to block them. Ji Feiyu's face was cold. His face was like the white snow of the mountains, and his face was as beautiful as jade. At this moment, it was so ethereal and cold that it didn't have a trace of humanity. There was no trace of emotion in his eyes as he looked at Qin Xiong. Qin Xiong, I know my words are useless to you. But if I am injured under your protection, what do you think will happen to you? Ji Feiyu's gentle voice was full of coldness at this moment. He held the dagger in his hand tightly and pressed it against his chest. Kneel. His voice was cold. How could Qin Xiong dare to disobey? He saw that the knife in Ji Feiyu's hand was about to pierce into his clothes. Suddenly he and the people around him all knelt down. They had to kneel down. If something were to happen to Ji Feiyu, they simply wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. Qin Xiong's legs were weak, and he didn't dare to be arrogant in front of Ji Feiyu. He had bullied Ji Feiyu before because he had no strength and a gentle temperament, so he didn't put him in his eyes at all. But he didn't expect that the other party's temperament was so tenacious and ruthless. It was completely unlike what he thought, a temperament that could only be kneaded round and flattened without any ability to resist. As he thought of this, large beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Young master, please don't be impulsive. We were just anxious and worried about your safety. We didn't mean to offend you. Qin Xiong didn't dare to open his mouth to talk about chasing Luo Qingtong again, for fear of provoking Ji Feiyu. The latter's gentle voice was cold. Kneel down and swear that none of you can hurt Luo Shaoqi for any reason or excuse. Yes. Qin Xiong and the others did not dare to disobey. They hurriedly agreed and swore an oath. After they swore the oath, Ji Feiyu didn't say anything else. He just threw away the blade in his hand and allowed Sui Yu and the others to bandage his wounds. The latter and the others cried as they bandaged their wounds. In the end they were sobbing uncontrollably. Young master. They looked at Ji Feiyu. The latter's expression was indifferent. He sighed and said, All right, don't cry anymore. I don't have the strength. I can only use this method to force Qin Xiong and the others to submit. Otherwise, we can only watch them attack Luo Shaoqi. How can I bear to do that? When he said this, Sui Yu and the others immediately cried even harder. Young master. They felt really sad. Young master was such a good person, so why couldn't he cultivate? Due to their weak bodies and illnesses, they were unable to live for long. Their hearts were filled with pain. The group of maidservants cried their hearts out. Ji Feiyu tried to persuade them but to no avail. He could only let them be. He was just worried that Luo Qingtong would not be able to leave this place in time. Otherwise, Qin Xiong and the others would cause more trouble. Thinking of this, Ji Feiyu sighed again. If only he could cultivate, it would be great. Unfortunately, thinking of this, he suddenly shook his head. He closed his eyes slightly and leaned against the wall of the carriage to rest, no longer making a sound. In an alley far away from Ji Feiyu and the others, Luo Qingtong had been waiting for Qin Xiong and the others to catch up with her after leaving. If she guessed correctly, Qin Xiong and the others would not let her go so easily. When they arrived, she would directly kill them. Anyway, in this Star City continent there were all kinds of people. Who would know that she did it? However, she waited for a long time but did not see the shadow of Qin Xiong and the others. Chapter 2793. Let's go and watch the show. What's wrong? After that voice, another voice sounded, carrying a hint of doubt and surprise. Is there some grand event happening? Look at how hurried you are, all of you are rushing towards the main square. Hey. You don't know, but someone from the Star Alliance Academy is challenging the 7 Ultimates of True Yen again. Oh my god, there's going to be a good show again. Did you forget? Last time, the people who challenged the 7 Ultimates of True Yen were slapped in the face so miserably. Oh my god, I've never seen people from low-level continents being so powerful. At that time, the people from the Qinghong continent were beaten so badly that they lost their temper. They were even forced to change the name of their continent. It said that the people from the 7 Ultimates of True Yen said that the word Qing violated their boss's taboo. Damn. You didn't see it, but that scene was so satisfying and satisfying. When have we, the people from low-level continents, ever been so arrogant and vindictive? The Star Alliance has always been the territory of the high-level continents and the top-notch aristocratic families. When have we ever seen people from low-level continents beat up people from high-level continents so miserably? This time, someone is challenging the 7 ultimates of true yen again. Shouldn't we hurry over and watch the show? At the corner of the street, a group of people hurriedly passed by the entrance of the alley. Hearing their words, Luo Qingtong, who was about to turn around and leave, instantly paused. Then, her figure flashed and she chased after those people in front of her. Hey brothers! Luo Qingtong caught up with those people. Seeing that other than them, there were many people rushing over to the Star City's main plaza, she immediately asked, I just heard you mention the 7 ultimates of true yen. I wonder if the 2 words true yen are derived from the true yen? The moment she said that, the group of people who were originally planning to ignore her immediately raised their heads and glanced at her. A young man looked at her and said, You actually don't know about the 7 ultimates of true yen? Are you new to our Star City? He sized up Luo Qingtong's figure from head to toe, discovering that her strength was around the Saint Expert level. He immediately curled his lips and said, As expected, you are someone who has just left the continent. Looking at your strength and aura, you should be someone from a low-level continent, right? Only people from low-level continents would venture out of the continent at such a low level in order to increase their strength as quickly as possible. Otherwise, with such strength, it would be extremely dangerous in the star field. It would be extremely easy to die. Who would be so bored as to leave the continent? As for whether or not Luo Qingtong was a member of the Advanced Continent or the Star Alliance, looking at her age and the fact that she didn't have any elders by her side, nor did she have any decent spiritual tools or magic weapons, it was obvious that she was definitely not one. Everyone thought like this, but they didn't look down on Luo Qingtong too much. This was because they were also similar to Luo Qingtong, people from low-level continents. Only they were a bit better than Luo Qingtong. They were selected into the Star Alliance Academy through the Star Alliance Hall of their respective continents. In the future, after their strength increased, they would be able to directly join the Star Alliance and become one of their subordinates. They were a bit better than people like Luo Qingtong who could only rely on themselves to make their way through the star field. Therefore, they looked at Luo Qingtong and said, It is indeed these 2 words. Chapter 2795. She didn't know who these 7 absolutes true yen were. As for her grandfather and the others, they weren't in the Star Alliance headquarters. As Luo Qingtong thought this, she decided to stay and take a look. After all, if grandfather Luo and the others were here, it would be meaningless for her to go back. Listening to the meaning of these people's words, True Spill Continent's situation was very good. The people of the Star Alliance had properly protected it. Moreover, they had brought the people of True Spill Continent out and settled them in the Star Alliance headquarters. If Luo Qingtong didn't guess wrong, most of the people of True Spill Continent here were from the hidden world. This was because only by reaching the Saint Realm would one be able to walk in the outer space and withstand the tremendous pressure of the spiritual energy in the outer space. Only those with such strength would be able to cultivate in the outer space and enhance their strength. As Luo Qingtong thought this, she smiled and nodded towards this group of people. Yes, I do know several people from True Spill Continent, but I didn't think that they would have such good fortune and be able to come to the Star Alliance headquarters to cultivate. I don't know if the people I know are among those people. As Luo Qingtong said this, she immediately went with them to the main square. In the main square, the largest martial arts arena was already filled with people. These people were all here for the 7 absolutes true yen in the square. These 7 people were simply legends of a low-level continent. At such a young age, their strength had risen to the peak of the Saint Spirit realm. They were only a step away from the Saint realm. It had to be known that with such strength at their age, it was understandable if they were from a high-level continent. But they grew up in the lowest level of the continent. It was said that the spiritual energy in True Spill Continent was incomparably barren. There weren't even many Saint Realm powerhouses. There were also very few Saint Spirit Realm powerhouses. Compared to other continents, it was simply incomparable. But these 7 people had emerged from such a continent. They had surpassed the strength of countless senior powerhouses and had reached the peak of the Saint Spirit realm. This was enough to shock anyone. But what was even more shocking was their strength. Each one of them was at the peak of their realm. They were nearly invincible. Bang! In the middle of the training field, a man wearing high-grade continental clothing fell to the ground. In front of him was a pretty and cute girl in a pink robe. The young girl's face was elegant and pretty, and she looked as cute and soft as a little white rabbit. But it was this seemingly soft and harmless young lady who was in love with him. Her face was cold and so were her eyes. There was not a trace of emotion on her face. She was like a lifeless rag doll. Chapter 2796. Damn. Has Xiao Xiao's ability to concoct medicinal liquids become stronger again? She's simply abnormal. It hasn't even been 15 minutes yet. She has already defeated a powerhouse who has just entered the Paragon realm. How can we live like this? I feel like my young heart has been deeply hurt. In a place near the middle of the training field, a few people were standing there. Among them, little Overlord Yuan was holding his heart with a sickly look on his face as he cried out in pain. Ling Yuer, who was beside him, slapped him on the head. It hurts my eyes. Shut up. No matter how miserable you cry, you won't be able to trick Xiao Xiao into concocting medicinal liquids as compensation. Yuan, who resentfully put down his hand that was holding his heart. Sigh, ever since boss left, Xiao Xiao has evolved into a steel-toothed little bunny. I get goosebumps when I see her now. If she continues to be so abnormal, I reckon we won't be able to get a single opponent today. Damn it. That medicine refining ability that can adjust and melt the opponent's spiritual energy according to the attribute of their spiritual energy is simply too unfair. As Yuan, who said this, he suddenly felt a toothache. This ability was awakened by Su Xiaoxiao when they risked their lives to protect Luo Qingtong in the land of the fallen immortals. At that time, she had used the huge spiritual energy light pillar formed by the birth of the sector beast to concoct medicinal liquids. It was originally a gamble. But in the end, as if she had broken through a certain potential limit, she was actually able to concoct medicinal liquids according to the attribute of the opponent's spiritual energy. Damn. This time, the medicinal liquids concocted by Su Xiaoxiao instantly became extremely powerful. One had to know that the attacks of warriors and soul practitioners all relied on their own spiritual energy. Once targeted and destroyed, wouldn't that be bad luck? There had never been anyone like Su Xiaoxiao who could target the strength attribute of others. This time she had become the strongest person among them. That was also true. Her medicinal liquids still needed some time to take effect. Moreover, if people were too strong and their levels were too much higher than her, the medicinal liquids she could concoct would be greatly reduced, and the power would be limited. Otherwise, they had no doubt that she would be invincible throughout the world. Oh no, there was one more person. Su Xiaoxiao definitely couldn't defeat her and she wouldn't fight with her. That means he's the boss. Sigh, I wonder where boss is now and if he's doing well. Whenever I think of boss, I feel terrible. Why do you think our strength is increasing so slowly? Is the intensity of the training not enough? Yuan, who said gloomily, why don't I go to Death Valley again after this competition? Chapter 2797. Hold on. Ling Tianhan, what kind of skill do you think you have in bullying others like this? On the other side of the martial stage, another group of people was standing. At this moment, a man stood up and said. They were wearing the same clothes as the man who had fallen in the middle of the martial stage. It was obvious that they came from a high-level continent. In this academy created by the Star Alliance, the people of each continent had clothes that represented their identity. However, not every person from the continent could wear the clothes that represented their identity on the continent. Only people from high-level continents could. Or perhaps only the people of the continents that they recognized could do it. This rule was naturally not an official rule of the Star Alliance Academy, but was jointly formulated by the people of the high-level continents. Anyone who broke this rule would be met with unanimous hostility and suppression. At this time, besides the people in the corner of the martial stage, only Yuan Hu and the others were wearing the uniform of the high-level continents. However, their clothes were very different. Although they were of the same style, the colors and patterns were different. But the word Heavenly Demon, embroidered on their robes, was exceptionally dazzling and eye-catching. It was impossible for anyone to overlook it, and the first thing they would see would be these two words. In the entire Star Alliance Academy, only the people of the True Spill continent were so unique. No one knew why they would use the word Heavenly Demon as a symbol even though they were obviously from the True Spill continent. Moreover, the high-level figures of the Star Alliance Academy, or more accurately, the high-level figures of the Star Alliance Academy, had actually tacitly allowed such a violation of the rules to occur. It had to be known that in the past, even the most powerful families of the Star Alliance didn't dare to do this. This was because the other families wouldn't allow it. But now, a small True Spill continent had actually done it. And when someone complained to their own family or family, the hall masters and elders behind these families and family clans all refused to comment. They all tacitly approved of the actions of the True Spill continent's people. And some of the more troublesome juniors of their families were even suppressed by them themselves. Everyone was flabbergasted by what they had seen. It was also because of this that the people of the Star Alliance Academy knew just how high the status of the people of the True Spill continent was. He didn't lose out to some of the top aristocratic families and people from the high-ranked continents. However, no one knew why they were so favored by the higher-ups of the Star Alliance. Some people said that it was because they had discovered extremely important ruins and treasures in the True Spill continent. Chapter 2798. Because that was the first force created by Luo Qingtong. Once they joined Heavenly Diabolism, they would be Heavenly Diabolism's people for life. No matter where they went, no matter what other people called them, they were Heavenly Diabolism's people, boss's people. At this moment, Yuan Hu looked at that person from the high-class continent who was shouting loudly and laughed coldly. He was in a bad mood. These people from the high-class continent were really courting death. Okay. Isn't this too much of a bully? I think so too. What the F***ck Xiao Xiao alone was about to take care of all these people. They also had anger in their hearts that needed to be vented. These trash said that their boss was mysterious and might be a good-for-nothing trash, so they didn't dare to come out and meet people. These words completely infuriated Yuan Hu and the others. If not for this, how could they, who were busy cultivating and increasing their strength, have the time to care about these trash who had nothing to do? Since they couldn't wait to court death, they naturally had to help them. Who didn't know that in the hearts of the 7 absolutes of true yen, only their boss couldn't be humiliated. She was the only reverse scale in their hearts. Scolding them was fine. They were busy cultivating and might be too lazy to care. But scolding their boss, even if it was just a casual derogatory remark, would cause them to deal with it endlessly. The previous Qinghong continent was like this. They were abused by Yuan Hu and the others to the point that the continent's name was changed. Even the people of the entire continent were forced to withdraw from Star Alliance Academy. They could no longer enter it in the future. Because Yuan Hu and the others said that they would torture them every time they saw them. They would torture them until they didn't dare to appear in Star Alliance Academy again. At that time, Yuan Hu and the others weren't as famous as they were now, nor were they as strong as they were now. They completely used blood and mud to beat the people of Qinghong continent to the ground. Thus they became famous in one battle. Boss's name couldn't be humiliated. Everything about her couldn't be blasphemed by others. At this moment, Yuan Hu looked at the group of people from the high-class continent with a sneer. He clenched his fists and twisted his neck, saying coldly, "You guys don't think it's good enough for Xiao Xiao to torture you all by herself, right? That's exactly what I was thinking." He laughed and said coldly, "No matter how abnormal he is, that guy is still just an alchemist. These alchemy attacks are all empty. How can they compare to the thrill of our fists hitting flesh? Don't you think so? Come. Let's attack together and let you know what it means to be as warm as spring. What do you think?" Their bodies were covered in blood and their blood flowed like a river. Lying inside they were naturally warm. Yuan Hu grinned as he said this. In the eyes of the group of people from the high-ranked mainlands, this grin was even more terrifying than the rebirth of a demon. They had always known that the 7 absolutes of true yen valued their boss who had never shown his face. This time he deliberately used this person's matter to provoke Yuan Hu and the others to accept the challenge. However, when things came to a head, they realized that Yuan Hu and the others valued their boss more than they had imagined. It should be known that Yuan Hu and the others had never moved out together when facing challenges in the past. Most of the time, it was a one-on-one battle. Chapter 2799. This was because the combined strength of the 7 unique true yen was many times more tyrannical and terrifying than their individual strength. Their individual strength was already almost invincible in the same realm, enough to fight against a holy venerate expert of the general level. But their combined strength was comparable to an expert who had just entered the holy venerate realm. Just entered the holy venerate realm. What kind of strength concept was that? That was the mainstay of the strength of these aristocratic families from the high-class continents. At the same time, it was a level of strength that these genius disciples could never reach at their age. Only the disciples of the top aristocratic families of the 7 or 8-star domains could reach the holy venerate realm at their age. It was absolutely impossible for them. Therefore, once they fought with the 7 of the 7 unique true yen at the same time, the only result of the group battle was that they would be instantly crippled by the 7 of the 7 unique true yen. The group of people from the high-class continents shuddered in their hearts when they thought of this. The man from the high-class continent who said Yuan Hu and the others bullied them was even more scared out of his wits. He hurriedly said, Wait. You people from the 7 unique true yen have an unfair advantage." The moment he said this, there was a roar of laughter all around. Unfair advantage? The 7 of the 7 unique true yen were only at the peak of the Holy Spirit realm. This group of people from the high-class continents were almost all in the holy venerate realm. How could they say that the 7 unique true yen had an unfair advantage? This was simply too hilarious. Were these people from the high-class continents all shameless? The crowd in the martial arts practice field all roared with laughter. Most of the people who came to watch the competition between the 7 unique true yen and this group of people from the high-class continents were from the low-class continents, and a small number of them were from the middle-class continents. There were almost no people from the high-class continents, because it was too embarrassing. Every time the people from the high-class continents faced a challenge from the 7 unique true yen, they had never won. The group of people from the high-class continents could not afford to lose face, so they naturally did not come to watch. Far away from the martial arts practice field, Luo Qingtong and the group of people from the low-class continents who brought her here came to the martial arts practice field. As soon as they entered, they heard the roar of laughter that filled the whole place. After clarifying the situation, the group of people who brought Luo Qingtong over laughed and said, "These people from high-ranked continents are getting more and more shameless. But this also proves how powerful the 7 ultimates of true yen are. Haha, you're really venting for the people of our low-level continents." "That's right." A person from a low-level continent answered, "Ever since the reputation of the 7 absolutes of true yen spread in the Star Alliance, people from low-level continents like us can hold our heads high in front of people from mid-level and high-level continents. We can speak with our heads held high. The people of the 7 ultimates of true yen are the pride of our low-level continent." Yes. Hearing his voice, Luo Qingtong looked in the direction of the stage in the middle of the martial arts practice field. She smiled and said, "They are indeed my pride." Her voice was extremely soft, almost inaudible amidst the laughter of the crowd. Luo Qingtong looked at Yuan Hu and the others in front of her with a smile. She did not expect that the 7 unique true yen turned out to be the 7 of them. This was really beyond her expectations, but it also seemed to be within reason. Chapter 2800. At this moment, in the center of the martial arts practice field, the man from the high-class continent who spoke heard the mocking laughter around him and said angrily, "If you're so capable, then compete with us in something else." As soon as he said that, the laughter around him stopped. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and looked at the man from the high-class continent who spoke. The latter held his head high and looked at Yuan Hu and the others. "Let's not compete in the arena. Let's compete in something else. How about it? Do you dare to compete?" As soon as he said that, Yuan Hu sneered and said rudely, "Are you dreaming? Why should we compete with you? Do we have to compete in something else just because you say so? Do you want to compete in embroidery? Then you'll definitely win. After all, we can't win against a bunch of weaklings in this aspect." As soon as Yuan Hu said that, the man from the high-class continent's face turned purple and red. He shouted angrily at him, "Yuan Hu, don't be so arrogant. You may not win even if we compete in this. Humph, I think you don't dare to compete. If that's the case, then you might as well admit that your boss is a piece of trash who doesn't dare to show his face. Then we'll accept your surrender." As soon as he said that, Yuan Hu's face turned furious. *CK your grandpa? What did you say? Say it again. Bang. As soon as he said that, with a loud bang, Ling Tianhan's sword stabbed into the ground in front of the man from the high-class continent. He said coldly, "Let's compete. But if you lose," as he said that, his cold eyes swept across the faces of the people from the high-class continent. "All of you will die here." Humiliating the boss was a crime punishable by death. As soon as he said that, everyone present was shocked. It should be known that in the competition of the Star Alliance Academy, no one was allowed to kill. Students were also not allowed to kill each other. This was the ironclad rule of the Star Alliance Academy. Did the people of the 7 ultimates of true yen want to challenge this iron law? While everyone was still in shock, the group of people from the high-class continent looked at the murderous faces of Ling Tianhan and the others. Their hearts beat like drums and their legs went soft. They should be able to defeat these people from the 7 absolutes of true yen, right? After all, the person who asked them to challenge the 7 absolutes of true yen had said that as long as they did so, they would definitely be able to defeat the 7 absolutes of true yen. With this thought in mind, everyone immediately calmed down. The man from the high-class continent gritted his teeth and said, "Fine. But if we win, you will have to cripple your own strength and be at our mercy." That person had said that the more miserable these people of the 7 absolutes of true yen were, the better. Chapter 2802. Good. Mo Zhuling's laughter was cold and gloomy. She knew that slut Luo Qingtong was their only reverse scale. Using her as bait, she wasn't afraid that these people from True Spill Continent wouldn't fall for it. This time she wanted them to suffer a fate worse than death. She wanted to see just how much pain that slut Luo Qingtong would suffer once she returned. Alright, I got it. You guys did a good job. After this matter is over, I will recommend you to my father so that you can have a meteoric rise. Yes. Thank you, eldest miss. The man from the high-class continent who came to report was overjoyed. He thought that the person who had sent them the letter to help the eldest miss hadn't lied to them. Now their meteoric rise was just around the corner. Good. You can leave first. Remember, don't let those people from True Spill Continent see through any flaws. They have followed that slut Luo Qingtong for so long and have experienced so much. They won't be so easy to trick. Mo Zhuling's voice was cold and gloomy. He raised his hand and ordered the man to leave. Yes, eldest miss, you can rest assured. We all followed your orders. First, we used their boss humiliation to lure them into accepting the challenge. Then, we brought up the matter of gaining experience and seizing treasures. For the sake of their boss's reputation, they didn't hesitate to agree. Moreover, the virtual mirror array is a famous treasure of the Star Alliance. It can absolutely guarantee fairness. They won't doubt it. The man from the high-class continent flattered. As for how Mo Zhuling planned to deal with Su Xiaoxiao and the others in the virtual mirror array, he didn't dare to ask. The fairness of the virtual mirror array was absolutely guaranteed. He just didn't know what method the eldest miss had in mind. But no matter what method she had, it had nothing to do with them. He followed Mo Zhuling's gesture and left. After he left, Mo Zhuling also stood up and flicked her finger, releasing a faintly discernible black smoke message. Outside the mansion, Luo Qingtong was hiding in an alley that the man from the high-level continent had passed through before coming here. When she saw him coming out of the mansion and returning, she directly raised her hand and restrained him. Shua. The man from the high-level continent had just come out of Mo Zhuling's mansion. His body and mind were indescribably light and cheerful. He did not expect that there would be someone hiding in the alley who wanted to attack him. Just as he was about to shout, Luo Qingtong's hand was already around his neck. Oh, how dare you! The man from the advanced continent was shocked and angry. Luo Qingtong's movements were extremely fast. Before he could react, she had already grabbed his neck. However, when he snapped back to reality, he discovered that the one who gripped his neck was actually just a sacred expert-level young lady. His expression immediately became furious, immediately about to operate his strength, blast Luo Qingtong flying. However, before he could do anything, Luo Qingtong's 5 fingers had already fiercely clenched. In an instant, the power of a sacred expert level blasted into his body. In an instant, the power in his body was cut off. Then Luo Qingtong's figure fiercely pressed forward. The hand that gripped his neck lifted him up and fiercely smashed him against the wall of the alley. Who did you go to see just now? The young lady's voice was as calm as clouds and wind, but the man from the high-level continent was already scared silly. All the power in his body was restrained. He actually couldn't summon the slightest bit of power. Who exactly was this young lady? Chapter 2803. The man from the high-class continent looked shocked. Seeing that he didn't speak, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed fiercely, and with a crack, she began to withdraw the strength of her 5 fingers. Feeling that the neck bone in his throat was about to be broken, the man from the high-class continent was scared out of his wits. His face flushed red and he endured the feeling of being choked and hurriedly shouted himself hoarse, I'll talk. His voice was hoarse. He was clearly shouting, but because his voice was choked by Luo Qingtong's hand, it was not much louder than a kitten's voice. Hearing his voice, Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent, and she slightly opened her 5 fingers. Speak. Yes. The man from the high-class continent was trembling with fear. He had no idea why a powerhouse like Luo Qingtong was looking for him. Such a genius powerhouse had never been heard of in their star-desolate domain. Even a 9-star domain like theirs didn't have such a genius powerhouse at all. To be able to restrain a saint-venerable powerhouse with the strength of a saint master, how terrifying was the other party's true fighting strength. Thinking like this, he didn't dare to conceal anything and hurriedly said, I came here to see the eldest Mississippi, When he said this, he started to speak incoherently, not knowing what to say. What kind of information did the other party want to know? Looking at the ice-cold expression on Luo Qingtong's face, he was at a loss of what to do. It was Luo Qingtong who opened her mouth. Eldest miss? Mo Zhuling? Her voice sounded, and in an instant, the man from the high-class continent hurriedly nodded. Yes. It's the eldest miss. He carefully looked at Luo Qingtong and said, "What else do you want to know? Why did you come to see her? In addition, did she ask you to deal with Su Xiaoxiao and the others?" Luo Qingtong's words came out, and in an instant, the man from the high-class continent was scared out of his wits. You. He looked at Luo Qingtong in shock, unable to hide the horror in his heart. You know the 7 absolutes of true yen. The man from a high-level continent racked his brains, but he didn't think that this person would be acquainted with the group from the true spill continent. Moreover, it was obvious that this person had come for the 7 absolutes of true spill. How could this be? This young girl's strength was so tyrannical. How could she know those people from true spill continent? Could it be that those people from the true spill continent were valued by the high-level figures of the Star Alliance? But the truth was that the reason wasn't because of the rumors, but because there was an extremely powerful and terrifying influence behind them? Thinking of this person from a high-ranked continent was already scared out of his wits. Please spare my life. We really didn't mean to deal with the 7 absolutes of true yen. It's young miss who told us to do this. As his voice sounded out, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. She looked at him and said, "What did she tell you to do?" When Luo Qingtong saw this man from a high-class continent leave, she felt that something was wrong. Now that she had followed him, she really did discover that someone had deliberately planned to deal with Su Xiaoxiao and the others. But this person was actually Mo Zhuling. This woman really hated her to the bone. She was clearly the one who had stolen her man, so why did she have such a hateful appearance? Shouldn't she be the one to hate her? She was speechless. Luo Qingtong couldn't figure out how this strange person's brain worked. She was too lazy to bother with these things. She only asked the man what Mo Zhuling had told them to do. Chapter 2804. This man from the high-rank continent actually didn't know. This was because Mo Zhuling had only asked them to force the 7 absolutes of true yen to agree to join them in adventuring and snatching treasures. What happened afterwards had nothing to do with them. That's it. The man from the high-rank continent trembled as he said, "Your Excellency, this is all I know." As he spoke, Luo Qingtong instantly nodded. Good. As she spoke, she broke the man's neck with a crack. You. The man from the high-rank continent was shocked. He stared at Luo Qingtong with wide eyes. He didn't think that her technique would be so clean and neat. Before he could even react, he had already died under Luo Qingtong's hands. From beginning to end, he didn't even have a chance to use his strength. After he died, Luo Qingtong waved her hand and directly turned his corpse into powder. I hate it when people try to play tricks in front of me. As she spoke, she raised her hand and caught the man from the high-rank continent. After his body turned to ash, a message floated down from the air. This message had a power spell on it. As long as it was lightly touched, the owner of this spell would immediately receive a warning. Seeing the Mo mark on the message, Luo Qingtong lightly snorted. She directly put away the spell and left. At this time in Mo Zhuling's mansion, after the black smoke message in Mo Zhuling's hand burned out, a mass of black fog tumbled in front of her. What did you call me for? The voice from the black fog was low and deep. It was obvious that it was covered up, making it impossible to tell whether it was a man or a woman, or what the original voice was like. But Mo Zhuling didn't care. What this person's status was had nothing to do with her. As long as it could help her deal with Luo Qingtong, it was fine. In this vast star-desolate domain, only this black fog could help her. Even her father feared this man's status and methods. He simply didn't dare to move against the people of True Spill Continent. I've already hooked those people from True Spill Continent. You may begin now. Mo Zhuling sounded impatient. As soon as she had recovered from her severe wounds, she had wanted to deal with the people of True Spill Continent. But if she wasn't fully prepared, then it would be difficult to move against them. Only those outside who didn't know the truth would think that it was a simple matter for her to move against the people of True Spill Continent. In fact, once those old fogies of the Star Alliance knew that she wanted to harm the people of True Spill Continent, they would immediately attack her. Mo Zhuling hadn't found Luo Qingtong's whereabouts yet. How could he let them know what he was thinking? Furthermore, he would not give them the chance to attack him. Mo Zhuling's voice rang out. Instantly, the black fog began to search. Oh, you've already succeeded? Are we going to use the method we thought of before? Chapter 2805. That's right. Her voice sounded out. The black fog chuckled and said, You're too smart for your own good. Those people care too much about that slut Luo Qingtong. They can't even bear to see her slandered. Moreover, with the mirror array as a guide, it's impossible to tamper with it. Naturally, they agreed. As the black fog spoke, its voice was very happy. But they didn't think that the mirror array couldn't be tampered with. But we can tamper with it and enter the mirror array. As the black fog spoke, it laughed with satisfaction. Mo Juling's heart was also very happy. That's right. Those people will never know that I have the ability to enter the mirror array. Thus, if something happens to those people from True Spill Continent in the mirror array, they can't blame me. As she spoke, she covered her mouth and chuckled, her face full of satisfaction and pride. Good, let's hurry up and prepare. This time, we must make those people from True Spill Continent beg for death in the mirror array. As Mo Juling spoke, his laughter became increasingly joyful and happy. No one knew that from the start her goal wasn't to make those people bet with Su Xiaoxiao and the others. What did those bets count for? So what if those people from the high-level continents won? Those old bastards of the Star Alliance, even if it was his father, wouldn't allow her to harm the people of True Spill Continent in the slightest. But what if those people from True Spill Continent were to suffer too much of a tragic blow after entering the mirror array, turning into something that was neither human nor ghost, losing all of their cultivation? So, then who could blame others? After everything was over, she would silence those people from the high-level continents. No one would know that she was the one who did this. Mo Juling sneered. The black fog nodded and flew into her body. Close your eyes. I'll help your soul leave your body. Also, make sure that no one outside disturbs you. I know. Mo Juling lightly humphed. She walked back to her bed and sat on it. I've already given the order. Go ahead. As soon as she finished speaking, a red light suddenly blossomed from her body. Then, with a swoosh, a cloud of black mist surrounded her incorporeal spirit body and rushed outside. At this time, in the main square of Star City, Su Xiaoxiao, Ling Tianhan, and the others had already arrived at the other side of the martial arts stage. This was the private property of the Star Alliance members. Normally, no one was allowed to enter. The virtual mirror array was also here. At this moment, Su Xiaoxiao and Ling Tianhan, as well as the people from the advanced continents, had obtained permission from the elders of the Star Alliance to activate the mirror array. In fact, ordinary people were not allowed to activate the mirror array. Even the members of the Star Alliance had to have a certain amount of contribution points and strength in order to activate the mirror array's training function. But at this moment, because of Su Xiaoxiao and the others' request, and the elders of the Star Alliance knew of their relationship with Luo Qingtong as well as their connection with Yi Qianxian, how could they dare to neglect? If they wanted to activate it, they naturally did so. Not only that, but a group of elders had also personally come here to watch. Not for anything else, but Su Xiaoxiao and the others had made such a bet with the people from the advanced continents. How could they not come? Chapter 2806. Therefore, a group of elders from the Star Alliance had come. Moreover, such a huge commotion made everyone in the Star City's main square feel that this competition was unusual. A crowd of people flocked over, requesting to watch the competition. And the people from the high-rank continents had received Mo Juling's orders. They wanted Su Xiaoxiao and the others to lose miserably, losing all face in front of everyone. Thus, they requested the Star Alliance elders to open up this area so that everyone outside could come in and watch this match. In order for this match to be fair and square. These were their exact words. The request of the group of people from the high-class continents made the elders of the Star Alliance very unhappy. They had indeed planned that if the True Spill Continent's people were careless and lost, then they would help them suppress this matter. At that time, they would naturally compensate the high-rank continent's people. But these people obviously wanted the True Spill Continent's people to suffer misfortune. They didn't hesitate to use those people outside to threaten them. They wanted them to be unable to protect the True Spill Continent's people in front of everyone? These idiots. Compared to the life or death of the entire Star Alliance, what was protecting the True Spill Continent's people in front of everyone? Were they afraid of losing face? These people were really courting death. The Star Alliance elders' complexions were very ugly. As they looked at the high-rank continent's people, their eyes were like ice blades, sharp and cold. The high-rank continent's people felt a great pressure under these gazes, but they couldn't shrink back. They didn't know the true situation of the True Spill Continent. They only thought that as long as they called in those people outside, the elders would hesitate to act and not dare to do anything to them. Thus none of them shrank back. Just as they were in a deadlock with the Star Alliance elders, Ling Tianhan and the others' voices sounded out. Elders, please agree to their request. That's good. We also want everyone to see how they die in front of everyone. Ling Tianhan and the others' voices were ice cold. These high-rank continent's people insulted Luo Qingtong. If they didn't make an example out of her, then others probably wouldn't know how serious the consequences of insulting their boss were. They didn't care what these high-rank continent's people were planning or what they were relying on to deal with them. They only had one thought in their hearts, and that was, those who insulted Luo Qingtong die. Fine. The Star Alliance elders had helpless expressions. They could ignore the requests of the high-rank continent's people, but they couldn't ignore the requests of Ling Tianhan and the others. Otherwise they wouldn't ignore the rules and let them use this virtual mirror array. Chapter 2807. That was where the virtual mirror array was located. The 108 spirit mirrors shone brightly at the same time, forming a huge light pillar above their heads. Inside the light pillar was the virtual secret realm they formed. Although it was called a virtual secret realm, the attacks inside were all real. They were the attacks from the spirit mirrors. Because only in this way could they achieve the effect of training. Otherwise, there would not be any sense of urgency or danger when they entered the secret realm for treasure hunting training, since there would not be any injuries. Naturally, it would be useless. However, these spirit mirrors would check the condition of the people who entered. Once they were seriously injured, they would be teleported out. Therefore, there was no danger to their lives. If not for this, the elders of the Star Alliance wouldn't have allowed Su Xiaoxiao and the others to participate in this competition. However, they didn't know that at this moment, an invisible light suddenly flew in from the outside and rushed into the mirror array. The opponent's strength and ability couldn't be restrained by the mirror array at all. Luo Qingtong stood far away in this special area and watched the invisible light rush into the mirror array. Instantly, the blood-red light in her eyes flashed fiercely. She raised her hand and summoned Little Pig. The latter was sleeping in the 9-layer exquisite pagoda and replenishing his strength. When he felt her summon, he almost fell from the sky. What's wrong? Is there any danger? It looked left and right, looking as if it was ready to attack. Luo Qingtong's face was filled with anger. Don't worry, there's no danger. This guy, could it be that she only summoned him when she was in danger? Ha. Little Pig laughed dryly and quickly changed the topic. Master, why are you looking for me? Whenever he felt guilty, he would call her master. Moreover, he called her master in a very sweet way. Luo Qingtong chuckled. However, she didn't bicker with Little Pig. This was the time to get down to business. Can you enter that mirror array? When Luo Qingtong arrived, the mirror array had already been activated. Su Xiaoxiao and Ling Tianhan had already entered. Moreover, even if they did not enter, Luo Qingtong would not stop Ling Tianhan and the others from entering without knowing the dangers inside. They were fighting for her reputation. She couldn't let them give up the opportunity to compete with others and admit defeat on the spot because of a groundless threat. This was an insult to Ling Tianhan and the others, as well as a sign of disrespect. Moreover, even if he admitted defeat, he would still have to fulfill the terms of the bet. Ling Tianhan and the others would never cheat, even if the elders of the Star Alliance protected them. Therefore, Luo Qingtong would not stop them from entering. But that ray of light just now, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. If she wasn't wrong, that was what Mo Zhuling relied on to deal with Xiaoxiao and the others. She couldn't let them hurt Su Xiaoxiao and the others. Luo Qingtong's voice rang out. Immediately, Little Pig also saw the huge mirror formation. Sure. He nodded and said, let that little ball send you in. It's a sector beast. It can travel through all spaces and barriers. As its voice sounded, Luo Qingtong had already raised her hand to summon Tuanzi. However, after hearing how Tuanzi sent her in, Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. Did this guy do it on purpose? Chapter 2808. Is there no other way? Luo Qingtong felt a headache coming on. Chirp, chirp, chirp. Xiao Tuanzi lay in her arms and chirped, looking very pitiful and anxious. Little Pig glanced at it, then translated to Luo Qingtong. This fellow said that if it had enough energy, it wouldn't need to do this. But it doesn't have enough energy, so it can only use that method to bring Master in. Actually, I think this method is not bad. Master, look. This virtual mirror formation is a treasure of the Star Alliance. Maybe someone can see what's inside. If people find out that you can enter this mirror formation, I'm afraid it won't be a good thing. Especially since that Mo Zhuling was able to hide from the Star Alliance and tamper with this mirror formation. I'm afraid her background isn't as simple as it seems. Luo Qingtong's brows furrowed when she heard Little Pig's words. Okay. She nodded and said to Xiao Tuanzi, then we'll do as you say. Luo Qingtong didn't know why, but she had a feeling that the ball of light that entered the mirror formation might be Mo Zhuling's consciousness. Because she wouldn't let anyone else deal with the people around her. First of all, she might not be able to trust others. Second of all, since she had such a method, she wouldn't let others know. It must be her trump card. Therefore, that ball of light might be Mo Zhuling's consciousness. If that was the case, then it would explain why Mo Zhuling wanted to lure Xiao Xiao and the others to participate in this treasure hunt. Her goal from the very beginning was probably not to win the bet, but to personally deal with Xiao Xiao and the others in the mirror formation. If that was the case, Xiao Xiao and the others would be in great danger. Since Mo Zhuling could enter the mirror formation without any hindrance, he wouldn't be restricted by it. At that time, there wouldn't be any need to stop and be sent out after being severely injured. She would definitely torture Xiao Xiao and the others inside. As Luo Qingtong thought of this, she no longer hesitated. At this moment, Mo Zhuling entered the scene created by the virtual mirror array under the guidance of the black fog. He immediately began to search for the group of people from the advanced continent. She was currently in the form of a consciousness, so she had to find something to attach herself to. Otherwise, she would not be able to attack. However, at this moment, she was enveloped by the power of the black fog and would not be attacked by the power of the mirror array. In fact, the power within the mirror array was completely unaware of Mo Zhuling's entry. When he realized this, Mo Zhuling became even more fearful of the power of the black fog. She already knew that this black fog was very strong, otherwise, it wouldn't have been able to suppress the trace of power in her heart and heal her body. But now, the ability revealed by the black fog was even more unfathomable. Chapter 2809. At that moment, Mo Zhuling wanted to laugh wildly. Haha, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. In this way, the subordinates of that B*TCH Luo Qingtong won't be able to escape from me. Mo Zhuling's heart was full of pride and ecstasy. She had originally planned to torture Su Xiao Xiao and the others here. She didn't expect the black fog to give her such a big surprise. It seemed that the black fog really hated Luo Qingtong to the core. In order to deal with her subordinates, it didn't hesitate to spend energy to cover the power of the mirror array. It should be known that it brought her into the mirror array and let her deal with Luo Qingtong's subordinates were two different things. Perhaps the black fog didn't need to spend too much energy to enter the array. However, Mo Zhuling believed that it would take a lot of energy to make her be ignored by the power of the mirror array and almost invincible in the mirror array, no matter how powerful the black fog was. Because it didn't mention this to her before, it seemed that it didn't plan to do so before. But she didn't know why it suddenly changed its mind. She was afraid that Luo Qingtong's subordinates might have something to rely on and run away. As expected, the black fog snorted coldly. You people from the Star Alliance really care about the safety of that B*TCH Luo Qingtong's subordinates. They're paying close attention to this place now. If I didn't cover your aura, I'm afraid they would have sensed it immediately. It wasn't easy to get the opportunity to lure them into the mirror array. How could I let them have a chance to run away? Go ahead and attack them. I don't believe that they'll either be dead or disabled. That B*TCH Luo Qingtong won't show up. As soon as the black fog finished speaking, Mo Zhuling instantly understood why it suddenly changed its mind. It turned out that those old bastards from the Star Alliance were worried that something would happen to Luo Qingtong's subordinates, so they were closely monitoring the mirror array. Unfortunately, they did not know that she had an existence like the black fog by her side. She was not afraid of their surveillance at all. Not only that, but their surveillance also gave her more leverage. Now that she was invincible in this mirror array, did she still need to be afraid of Luo Qingtong's people running away? As Mo Zhuling thought of this, he laughed coldly. At this moment, somewhere in the secret realm projected by the virtual mirror array, a group of people from a high-ranked continent are fighting with a group of monster beasts. These demonic beasts were all illusions created by the power of the mirror array. The strength of each beast was arranged according to the strength of the people who came to explore the secret realm and the strength of the team. Every one of them was enough to force out the potential and strength of the people who came to explore the secret realm. Therefore, the people of these high-ranked continents had no way of dealing with the attacks of these demonic beasts. This was because the existence of the virtual mirror array wasn't meant for Star Alliance students to train their strength. Instead, it was meant for the extremely powerful people in the Star Alliance who had experienced life and death situations, to squeeze out and force out their potential. At the same time, it was also meant to let them better understand and experience the horror and cruelty of the secret realm, so that when they encountered similar scenes in the future, they would be able to deal with it better and not get into trouble. Under such circumstances, these people from the high-ranked continents were not even a match for Su Xiao Xiao. How could they deal with the attacks of these demonic beasts? Chapter 28:10. Seeing those demonic beasts leaping up and spitting out terrifying attacks towards them, the group of people from the high-rank continents were scared out of their wits. They were not afraid that these attacks would kill them, because the mirror array would naturally judge the strength of these attacks. Once it exceeded the limit of what they could bear, it would immediately teleport them out. But in this case they would lose the competition, and they would have to pay with their lives to Su Xiaoxiao and the others. Thinking so, the group of people suddenly had a look of horror and fear on their faces. In such a situation they screamed without caring about anything else. Eldest Miss, save me. Eldest Miss. The group of people listened to Mo Zhuling's arrangement to compete with Su Xiaoxiao and the others in the treasure hunt. Now, they were about to be blasted out of the mirror array before they could even see the face of the treasure. They would definitely die at that time, so how could they not panic? Mo Zhuling promised that he would definitely let them win. When the crowd thought of this, they were already desperate enough to turn to any doctor they could find. They started shouting loudly. At this moment, with a swoosh, an invisible light flashed in an instant and attached itself to the body of one of the high-rank continents who was about to faint. A bunch of trash. The person from the high-class continent who was about to faint suddenly opened his eyes, revealing a sharp and cold light. Mo Zhuling's face was full of disdain. He directly raised his hand, and with a swoosh, an extremely violent and vast force instantly blasted forward. In an instant, the demonic beasts that had leaped into the air and were spitting their breaths in this direction seemed to have suffered a terrifying attack. They instantly shrieked in midair and were reduced to ashes in an instant. Such a terrible attack stunned the group of people from the high-rank continents who were lying on the ground. Eldest Miss? They looked at Mo Zhuling in front of them in shock, or rather, the person who was possessed by Mo Zhuling, with an indescribable look of disbelief on his face. How did the eldest miss appear in this virtual mirror array? Once the mirror array was activated, it would be sealed and no one would be able to enter again. Furthermore, Mo Zhuling had clearly entered with his consciousness. He was currently possessing one of them. This kind of method made everyone extremely shocked. Furthermore, the attack that Mo Zhuling had just unleashed was exceptionally terrifying. Just how powerful was Mo Zhuling's attack to be able to kill so many demonic beasts in one blow? After all, the combined might of those demon beasts was sufficient to instantly kill an Exalt Realm expert. However, Mo Zhuling easily shattered this force and killed all the demonic beasts, leaving them with no chance to resist. Chapter 28:11. A bunch of trash. I asked you to deal with the people from the 7 Absolutes of True Yen, but you almost got yourselves killed. Mo Zhuling's eyes were cold. If she had come a little later, these people would have all been thrown out. A bunch of trash, they couldn't even do such a small thing. If they let her painstaking efforts go to waste, she would skin them alive. The people from the high-level continents did not dare to refute. They had been frightened by Mo Zhuling's strength. The other party's strength was actually so strong. Not only that, entering the mirror array was like entering an uninhabited place. Everyone was shocked and did not dare to say a word. They hurriedly got up from the ground and kowtowed to Mo Zhuling, begging for forgiveness. Mo Zhuling's eyes were cold, but he did not pay attention to them. There was no point in arguing with a bunch of useless trash. Their only purpose was to stay in the mirror array so that she could torture Su Xiaoxiao and the others. Let's go. Mo Zhuling sneered. Let's go meet the people from the 7 Absolutes of True Yen. At this point she sneered. 7 Absolutes of True Yen? What a big name. Unfortunately, after today she would turn them into the 7 Absolutes of True Yen. As Mo Zhuling said this, he immediately rushed forward. With her strength, which was enveloped by the black fog, this mystic realm formed by the virtual mirror array was no threat to her. It was easy to find the whereabouts of Su Xiaoxiao and the others. Just as Mo Zhuling led the people from the high-level continents to search for Su Xiaoxiao and the others. Thud. In another part of the virtual mystic realm, a small figure fell to the ground. Ouch. Luo Qingtong called out, but what came out of her mouth was a soft and adorable moan. Meow. She hurriedly got up from the ground with a head full of black lines. However, just as she took a step forward, she lost her balance and fell to the ground with a thud. That's right, Luo Qingtong turned into a cat, and a little white cat. This cat was none other than Xiao Tuanzi. Luo Qingtong had asked if it could bring her into the mirror array. This fellow said it could. However, because it did not have enough energy, it could only let her enter by possessing its body. That was not all. Luo Qingtong had asked if it could change its appearance. because the way it hopped around she really couldn't accept it. Furthermore, if it went in looking like this, what if someone remembered its face? It would be exposed. However, this guy replied that he could, and in the end he turned into a cat. Damn it, it was even worse than Tuanzi's image. At least it didn't need to learn how to walk. Luo Qingtong looked gloomy. She got up from the ground and walked out, stumbling and tripping from time to time. She looked as if she was drunk. Luckily, Luo Qingtong was very adaptable and learned how to walk in a short while. However, her walking posture was still not very good. Chapter 28:12. At this moment, Mo Zhuling and a group of people from the high-level continent appeared at the entrance of a valley. Humph! Mo Zhuling sneered as she looked at the ring-shaped valley in front of her. Luo Qingtong's lackeys are quite capable. They have almost found the location of the treasure. This secret realm in the virtual mirror array was meant for Su Xiaoxiao and the rest to compete with the people from the high-level continent to obtain the treasure. The treasure was located in this ring-shaped valley. Mo Zhuling led the people from the high-level continent to explore the virtual secret realm as if there was no one around. Soon they had explored almost all the scenes in the secret realm. Naturally, she knew that the treasure was in this valley. However, Su Xiaoxiao and the rest were also in this valley. This made her very angry. If she had not appeared in time, her people would have been kicked out of the virtual secret realm. However, Su Xiaoxiao and the rest had advanced all the way and actually found this valley. When she could not find them outside, she already knew that they had probably found the location of the treasure. It was really infuriating. The people on her side were all trash, but Luo Qingtong's subordinates were so capable. This made Mo Zhuling very depressed and gritted her teeth. Her heart was filled with jealousy. She could not be compared to Luo Qingtong to be able to obtain that man's love. At this moment, that man's lackeys were all stronger than her people. Bang! Mo Zhuling's attack landed on the ground in front of her with a loud boom. Her voice was ice-cold. Surround this valley. You guys follow me in. She wanted to see where Luo Qingtong's lackeys could escape to if she blocked this valley. So what if they were capable? They would definitely not be able to escape this time after encountering her. Mo Zhuling's words left his mouth. The group of people from the high-ranked continents did not dare to refute him. They hurriedly blocked the entrance to the valley. At the same time, the remaining people all followed her and flew forward, searching for the whereabouts of Su Xiaoxiao and the others. Shwa. On the other side of the virtual mystic realm, Luo Qingtong's body adapted to the distorted cat steps and skimmed through the virtual mystic realm. She was similar to Mo Zhuling. Inside the illusory mirror array, there was almost no obstruction, because her soul was attached to Xiao Tuanzi. The latter was a sector beast. In this virtual mirror array world, it was completely unimpeded and unaffected. This was its instinct as a sector beast, and it had nothing to do with its power. Only an extremely powerful treasure would be able to stop it from wreaking havoc in this place. However, this virtual mirror array was only a treasure of the Star Alliance. How could it have such an ability? Therefore, Luo Qingtong, who was attached to Xiao Tuanzi's body, was not restricted by the power of the mirror array at all. She was able to come and go without any hindrance. Her power was no longer restricted by her physical body. Instead, she had recovered to her previous strength, which was the power of a level 9 purple elder. Not only that, Luo Qingtong smiled as she looked at the 2 blood-red bracelets on her 2 small fleshy paws. These 2 blood-red bracelets had followed her into this virtual mirror array when her soul had gone out of her body. Chapter 28:13. Translations. This was the first time that Luo Qingtong had learned that weapons also had spiritual bodies. Did these 2 bracelets already have souls like humans? However, when Luo Qingtong tried to summon the life and death sword, she found that this sword, which was connected to her soul, did not appear beside her. It was clear that only the 2 evil blood bracelets had followed her into this illusory mirror array. Thinking that the life and death yin-yang sword was only a semi-godly weapon and needed to find the imprint of God to transform into a godly weapon, Luo Qingtong could roughly guess why it couldn't appear here with her soul. Perhaps only weapons at the divine weapon level and above could form a soul and have an out-of-body experience with her. However, the evil blood bracelets had been severely damaged, and their spiritual bodies had not moved at all. Obviously, their spiritual intelligence and instinctive consciousness had either been destroyed or was in a deep sleep to repair itself. Therefore, even though their spiritual bodies had left their bodies and followed Luo Qingtong into this virtual mirror array, there was no movement at all. However, Luo Qingtong could feel that if she used the spiritual bodies of the evil blood bracelets in this mirror array, she would not be restricted by the lack of power of the evil blood bracelets. This principle was similar to how Luo Qingtong had recovered her original strength of the 9th level Purple Venerable Realm after leaving her body. Because her soul was in an out-of-body state here, her strength was the strongest she had ever been. However, due to the limitations of this virtual mirror array, Luo Qingtong could not exert power beyond the limits of what the mirror array could withstand. Otherwise, the mirror array would collapse. The reason was very simple. Because this was a virtual illusion, all the attacks here were formed by the power of the mirror array. Including the power that Luo Qingtong's soul displayed, it was the same. Therefore, once she exerted power beyond the limits of the mirror array, the power within the mirror array would not be able to manifest itself. Naturally, the entire mirror array would collapse. Luo Qingtong estimated that the maximum limit of this mirror array was at the peak of the human martial arts realm. If it exceeded this limit, it would not be able to withstand it and would collapse immediately. It seemed that this mirror array was indeed a treasure to the people of the Star Alliance. No wonder they valued it so much. After all, the power of the peak of the human martial arts realm was very rare even in a 6-star domain, let alone a 9-star domain. This virtual mirror array was considered a very rare treasure to be able to withstand this level of power. It was even more precious to the people of the Star Alliance. With this thought in mind, Luo Qingtong immediately flew forward. Her eyes flickered with red light. This was a skill of her soul. When her soul left her body, her blood eyes followed it. Her blood eyes scanned the surroundings. Wherever the red light passed, the scenes of the virtual mirror array became lines of power in her eyes. She was not at all confused by the scenes of the illusions. Because the scenes of the illusions, whether they were mountains, lakes, forests or not, were all formed to form the power of the mirror array. At this moment, there was nowhere to hide in Luo Qingtong's bloody eyes. Chapter 28:14. That was because they came in physically. The images in this virtual mirror array would not disappear in Luo Qingtong's bloody eyes like the other illusions. Therefore they could quickly follow the traces and find where they were. At this moment, in the valley, Su Xiaoxiao, Ling Tianhan, and the others were dividing up their work and rushing toward the place in the valley where they thought there might be treasures. Bang! An extremely ferocious bear-shaped demonic beast rushed toward Su Xiaoxiao and the others, roaring fiercely. Then, with a boom, its 4 iron-like claws drew out the power of the gold attribute in mid-air. The demonic beasts transformed by the mirror array were all the demonic beasts that had appeared in the secret realm explored by the Star Alliance. Their strength, level, and skill attributes were all based on the appearance of the demonic beasts that had appeared when the secret realm was first explored. With the adjustment and enhancement of the mirror array's power, they were exceptionally ferocious and powerful. The people from the high-level continents were almost blown away as soon as they entered. However, in the face of Su Xiaoxiao and the others, the attacks of the demonic beasts were neutralized by their tacit cooperation. Flying flowers in the sky. Su Xiaoxiao's figure flashed rapidly under the cover of Yuan Hu and the others. Her 5 fingers were constantly dancing. In an instant, according to the strength, level, and power attributes of the demonic beasts in front of her, she formulated the corresponding medicinal liquid that could neutralize their power attributes. In an instant, the medicinal liquid bottle in her hand fluttered out like flying flowers. The extremely gorgeous, colorful medicinal liquid was like a flower blooming in mid-air. Suddenly, it exploded in the middle of the demonic beasts. The medicinal liquid mist diffused all over the sky. In an instant, the attacks directed at Su Xiaoxiao, Ling Tianhan, and the others were weakened. Yuan Hu roared fiercely. His left foot stomped on the ground, and he met the attack of the bear-shaped demonic beast head-on. The petrification soul imprint on his body flickered with a light that was constantly changing between hard and soft. It forcibly blocked the attacks of the demonic beasts that had been weakened by Su Xiaoxiao. As for Ling Tianhan, Ling Yu, Sima Ju, Ling Tianxin, and Chu Wenhao, their bodies were as fast as lightning. The long sword was cold, the purple sky silk danced, and the black poisonous fog drifted. Water and lightning soul seals instantly poured out. In the blink of an eye, the bear-shaped demonic beasts in front of him were killed. Bang! While Ling Tianhan and the others were killing those demonic beasts, Yuan Hu was smashed to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Oh my god, the strength of these demonic beasts is much stronger than the previous demonic beasts. He crawled up from the ground, ignoring the injuries on his body. He did not care that a bear-shaped demonic beast was glaring at him after being killed by Ling Tianhan and the others. The pair of sharp claws that were as sharp as steel almost pierced his heart, if Ling Tianhan and the others had been a little slower. However, Yuan Hu had long been used to cooperating with them. He was not afraid of any accidents. It was not as if they had not encountered more dangerous situations in the past. Chapter 28:15. For Yuanhu, Su Xiaoxiao and Ling Tianhan were companions that he could entrust his life to. And for Su Xiaoxiao and the others, he was also a shield that they could entrust their lives to. Ling Tianhan and the others never considered defense when they attacked. Because Yuanhu was there to protect them. Bah! It hurts so much. Xiaoxiao, I'm so badly hurt this time. I need 2 bottles of spirit consolidating liquid to heal. Yuanhu covered his chest and ran to Su Xiaoxiao with an injured face. He asked her for the medicine with a pitiful look. The spirit consolidating liquid was refined by Su Xiaoxiao. It could help warriors and soul practitioners absorb spiritual qi and melt elemental power quickly. Since she could make the liquid that disintegrated and melted the elemental power of warriors and soul practitioners, she could also make the liquid that could speed up their integration and improvement. Yuanhu and the others relied on her liquid to improve their strength by leaps and bounds, but their foundation was still stable and their strength was not insufficient. Their strength that surpassed their peers and was almost invincible was all because of the liquid that Su Xiaoxiao gave them. At this moment, as soon as Yuanhu spoke, a purple light blasted over. It was Ling Yu who heard his shameless words. She raised her hand and pulled the heavenly purple sash over. You bastard, do you have any shame? You want 2 bottles of spirit consolidating liquid for such a small injury? Last time you were more seriously injured but you were still alive and kicking. This time you want to cheat Xiaoxiao of her spirit consolidating liquid. She can only refine 2 bottles a month. Last time she was cheated by you. Come here, I'll beat you to death. Hey hey hey. Seeing Ling Yu's heavenly purple sash coming over, Yuanhu immediately ran away. Damn it, woman, you're burning the bridge after using me? I'm still injured. Hey hey hey, where are you going with the sash? Damn it. Are you trying to end my bloodline? Tianhan, help. The 2 of them chased each other, but Ling Tianhan, Ling Tianqin, and the others just smiled and ignored them. They cleaned up the carcasses of the bear-shaped demonic beasts and prepared to continue their journey. However, right at this moment, Sima Ju's expression changed. The black poison in his body rushed out in an instant and blasted in front of him. In an instant, the fierce and terrifying poison evaporated in the air with a sizzling sound, drawing a line in the air as if a sharp blade had cut through it. If this poison attack landed on a human body, it would be able to melt an ordinary peak paragon into a puddle of rotten blood. However, at this moment, Sima Ju's attack was caught by a hand. As expected of Luo Qingtong's dog, its nose is so sharp. Mo Zhuling's voice was cold. Chapter 28:16. You're not Zhu Yujia. They looked at Mo Zhuling seriously. He was definitely not Zhu Yujia. Zhu Yujia was the name of the person who had been possessed by Mo Zhuling. The latter had already fainted when Mo Zhuling had possessed him. The one controlling his body was Mo Zhuling. I'm definitely not Zhu Yujia. Mo Zhuling laughed coldly. She didn't try to hide it in front of Yuanhu and the others. After they left today, they wouldn't be able to reveal her identity. She wouldn't give them the chance. Since you're so smart, why don't you guess who I am? Mo Zhuling's face was contented and proud, like a cat playing with a mouse. She wasn't afraid that Yuanhu and the others would escape. With the power of the black mist, she could completely seal the space within the virtual mirror array. Su Xiaoxiao and the others could enter, but they wouldn't be able to leave. As he spoke, Mo Zhuling flicked his sleeve, and easily crushed the black mist that Sima Ju had just released. Pfft. The moment the mist was crushed, Sima Ju's face paled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Mo Zhuling had used the connection between the poisonous mist and his body to injure his heart meridian. You. Ling Tianhan and the others were shocked and angry. They gathered around Sima Ju. Hey Ju, how are you? I'm fine. Sima Ju fiercely wiped the blood from his lips, and endured the pain of his heart being crushed. He didn't make a sound. You're a tough nut to crack. Mo Zhuling laughed coldly. But it's okay, we have time. Let's play slowly. Her face was cold and vicious, and against that of a person from a high-class continent, it was strange and twisted. Su Xiaoxiao had already pulled out a bottle of pills for Sima Ju. This medicinal pill was none other than what Luo Qingtong had left for them. It was extremely useful for treating serious injuries. Su Xiaoxiao and the others were never willing to waste the things given by Luo Qingtong. Therefore, until now, they still had a lot of medicinal pills left by Luo Qingtong, which came in handy at this moment. Who are you? How do you know our boss's name? They looked at Mo Zhuling with heavy expressions. The latter was obviously here for Luo Qingtong. But besides the people of True Spill Continent, Luo Qingtong's name was only known to the high-level members of the Star Alliance. However, if those people wanted to harm them, they wouldn't have waited until now and they wouldn't have done it in the virtual mirror array. Who were they? Take a guess. If you're right, I might be able to give you a quick and painless process. Mo Zhuling looked pleased. She very much enjoyed the feeling of playing with people in the palm of her hand. In particular, these people were Luo Qingtong's trusted aides. Perhaps they were people that she cared about very much. In her heart, she felt even more comfortable. However, just as her voice sounded, Ling Yuer's voice suddenly sounded. "Mph." She coldly sneered. Why do we have to guess? Someone like you who hides the head and shows the tail, and also hates our boss to the bone, it seems that you've been defeated by her. Since that's the case, what's there to guess? You're just a piece of trash who doesn't have the ability to take revenge on our boss, but instead came to vent her anger on us. If I knew your name, I would be afraid of dirtying my ears. Chapter 28:17. B*TC. What did you say? Mo Zhuling's expression was ferocious. The face of the person she possessed was twisted to the extreme. She hated it the most when people mentioned that she was not as good as Luo Qingtong and that she had lost to Luo Qingtong. They both liked the same man, but she was beaten up like a dog, while Luo Qingtong was protected in the palm of that man's hand. Clearly, Luo Qingtong should be the one to enjoy such treatment that was worse than death. Why was it her? That woman got everything she wanted, but in the end, one of her dogs was mocking her. Meanwhile, the Black Fog was also infuriated. Ling Yuer's words evoked the most unbearable memories in its heart. Used the most vicious and cruel methods to torture her. I want her to not even have the right to die. It roared in its heart, and its voice resounded in Mo Zhuling's mind. The latter's expression was sinister and fierce. Don't worry, even if you didn't say anything, I would still teach her a lesson. She dared to expose her wound and ruthlessly sprinkle salt on it. She would let the other party know what the consequences were. Do you have the same thoughts as her? Mo Zhuling's gaze was like a venomous snake's tongue as it licked Yuan Hu and the others' bodies. Seeing the disdainful expressions on their faces, her expression turned extremely cold. Good. You are indeed Luo Qingtong's dogs. Since that's the case, let me see how hard your bones are. As Mo Zhuling spoke, he raised his hand with a boom. The entire space in the valley was sealed in an instant. Yuan Hu and the others were completely trapped in this world. Originally, when they were in the virtual secret realm, the power of the virtual mirror array would immediately send them out once the damage exceeded the limits of what they could endure. But now, because of Mo Zhuling's power, the virtual mirror array could not detect their existence at all. It also could not detect the damage they had suffered. This way, no matter what kind of damage they suffered, even if their lives were threatened, the mirror array would not react at all. It was even more impossible to teleport them out. In other words, the area Yuan Hu and the others were in was completely under Mo Zhuling's control and was no longer affected by the mirror array. What? The moment Mo Zhuling made his move, Yuan Hu and the others' expressions changed drastically. They looked at the person who had possessed Zhu Yujie's body. They didn't know who the other party was, to actually have such strength. The power of the mirror array was blocked by her. Haha. The expressions of Yuan Hu and the others changed dramatically, while the group of people from the advanced mainland opposite them were overjoyed. They laughed out loud and said, Haha, you guys didn't expect someone from the 7 absolutes of True Yen, did you? How could young Miss be so powerful? Moreover, I can enter the mirror array to deal with you. To tell you the truth, I didn't bring you into the mirror array to compete with me because I wanted to win against you. Of course, this is one of our goals, but it is not the main one. Our main goal is to get you in here and let young Miss torture you. Then, you will be humiliated in front of all the people from the Star Alliance like a pack of dogs. Chapter 28:18. Haha. The group of people from the high-class continents didn't know why Mo Zhuling wanted to deal with the 7 absolutes of True Yen. They also didn't know what kind of deep grudge he had with their boss, Luo Qingtong. Even the name of the boss of the 7 absolutes of True Yen was Luo Qingtong. This was something they had only heard from Mo Zhuling now. Before this, the name of Luo Qingtong wasn't something that people like them could understand. Only the top people of the Star Alliance, the top management, were qualified to know about this name in Yi Qianxian. Apart from them, even the head of the most powerful force on the high-class continents didn't know about this. However, this didn't stop them from using this matter to curry favor with Mo Zhuling and attack Yuan Hu and the others. In their opinion, no matter how powerful Yuan Hu and the others' boss was, there was no way he could be compared to Mo Zhuling at this moment. The eldest Miss Strength was actually so tyrannical. Everyone in the Star Alliance had misjudged her. Previously, there were rumors that the eldest Miss was seriously injured and had become a cripple without any strength. This was simply nonsense. The eldest Miss was clearly so powerful that she was even more powerful than the top experts of the Star Alliance. Otherwise, how could she enter this mirror array without the Star Alliance's elders noticing? The group of people could see that Mo Zhuling hated Luo Qingtong to the bone. They immediately belittled and humiliated Yuan Hu and the others even more. Hearing their words, Yuan Hu and the others' eyes instantly turned red. So it was you, Mo Zhuling. They looked at the person possessed by Mo Zhuling. So it was him. No wonder he hated their boss so much and wanted to deal with them at all costs. So it was this woman. Ling Yu looked at Mo Zhuling and said coldly, "I was right. Mo Zhuling, you were defeated by our boss. Because you coveted our boss's man, you were beaten into a pile of meat paste. What? Now that you've recovered, you want to deal with us? Tiske. Even if you kill us, you can't erase the fact that you can't compare to our boss." "That's right." Yuan Hu's voice rang out with a sneer. "For a woman like you, no matter how powerful you become, our eldest brother's husband won't take a second look at you. Do you think that if you kill us, no one will know that your women are promiscuous and shameless? I've never seen such a shameless woman like you. You coveted someone else's man and you still have the face to go against our boss. Shut up, all of you." Mo Zhuling was so angry that he was trembling all over. The two most shameful things in her life had been exposed by Yuan Hu and the others. Their wanton ridicule made her so ashamed that she wanted to go crazy. Bang! Qi shot out wildly from all over her body. In an instant, the group of people from the high-ranked continent who had revealed her identity, as well as Yuan Hu and the others, were all sent flying. Boom! Yuan Hu and the others smashed into the ground and instantly spat out a mouthful of blood. The qi in their bodies became chaotic in an instant. Mo Zhuling had obtained the power of the Black Fog. In this virtual secret realm, no one could stop him. Su Xiaoxiao's medicinal liquid attack could not dissolve her spiritual qi attribute power at all. Yuan Hu wanted to block her power, but he was also sent flying. Ling Tianhan, Ling Yuer, and the others behind him were also sent flying while spitting out blood. The people from the high-ranked continent beside Mo Zhuling were even worse off.